Your habits are the invisible architects of your life. They determine the quality of your health, your wealth, your relationships, and ultimately your destiny. Every action you take, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you will become. What you do repeatedly, without even thinking, forms the foundation of your character and the direction of your future. Some people believe success is the result of one grand decision, one breakthrough moment, or a stroke of luck. But the truth is, success is built in the small, everyday choices. Tiny, seemingly insignificant actions that compound over time into massive results. Let's take a step back and examine how habits influence your future. From the moment you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, your daily routine is filled with patterns of behavior. Some of these patterns push you toward growth and success, while others quietly sabotage your potential. The way you start your day, the foods you eat, the thoughts you entertain, the way you spend your free time, each of these small choices might seem trivial on its own, but together they form the blueprint of your future. Consider the power of compounding. Just as small financial investments grow exponentially over time, so do small habits. Reading 10 pages of a book every day might not seem like much, but over the course of a year, that adds up to 3,650 pages, roughly 20 books. Imagine how much wisdom and knowledge you could gain in a decade just by committing to this one simple habit. On the other hand, neglecting this habit may not seem like a big deal today, but over time, it means you miss out on thousands of pages of life-changing insights that could have propelled you forward. Now think about your health. One meal won't make or break your body, but the habits you build around food and exercise determine the state of your health in the long run. Eating a fast food meal today won't make you gain weight overnight, just as one workout won't suddenly make you fit. But if you eat poorly every day and skip workouts regularly, your body will reflect those habits. In 5 years, you'll either be in great shape because of the small, consistent efforts you made, or you'll be struggling with health problems because of the choices you ignored. Your habits also shape your mindset. The way you think, the beliefs you hold, and the perspective you maintain are all influenced by the mental habits you practice. If you constantly focus on problems, negativity, and fear, your mind becomes wired to see obstacles instead of opportunities. If you habitually consume negative news, engage in gossip, or dwell on past failures, your brain will become conditioned to expect more negativity in your life. But if you train yourself to focus on gratitude, self-improvement, and problem solving, you rewire your brain to see possibilities, solutions, and growth. We often underestimate the impact of our environment on our habits. The people you surround yourself with influence your behaviors more than you realize. If your closest friends prioritize health, discipline, and ambition, you're likely to adopt similar habits. If they are lazy, unmotivated, and constantly make excuses, it becomes easy to fall into that same pattern. Your social circle acts as a mirror, reflecting back to you the habits and behaviors you engage in the most. That's why it's so crucial to be intentional about the people you allow into your life. Because their habits become your habits. Technology and entertainment also play a massive role in shaping our habits. How many people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is check their phones? This habit might seem harmless, but over time it creates a pattern of distraction and dependency. Instead of starting the day with focus and intention, many people begin by consuming social media, email notifications, and news updates that dictate their mood for the rest of the day. Compare that to someone who starts their day with a morning routine of exercise, reading, and goal setting. That one simple habit creates a completely different trajectory for their day and ultimately their life. One of the greatest challenges with habits is that they are often built unconsciously. Most people don't set out to form bad habits, they simply drift into them. They hit the snooze button a few times, and before they know it, sleeping in becomes a habit. They skip one workout, then another, and soon exercise becomes an afterthought. They spend a few minutes scrolling through social media, then realize an hour has passed. This is why it's so important to be intentional about the habits you form. Habits don't just shape what you do, they shape who you become. A person who exercises daily doesn't just become someone who works out, They become a disciplined person. A person who reads consistently doesn't just gain knowledge, they become a lifelong learner. A person who prioritizes their finances doesn't just save money, they develop a mindset of responsibility and abundance. Your habits determine the kind of person you see in the mirror a year from now, 5 years from now, and decades into the future. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a short period of time, but underestimate what they can achieve in a long period of time through consistent effort. The challenge is that positive habits often have delayed rewards, while bad habits tend to provide immediate gratification. Eating a donut right now feels good in the moment, but the long-term effect of consistently indulging in unhealthy food is weight gain and health problems. Skipping a workout today feels like a relief, but over time, it leads to a loss of strength and energy. On the flip side, good habits often require discipline up front, with the rewards coming later. Waking up early to work on your goals isn't easy, but the long-term reward is a sense of achievement and purpose. Saving money instead of spending it on impulse purchases requires restraint, but the long-term reward is financial freedom. Pushing yourself to read, learn, and grow might seem tedious at times, but over time it builds the foundation for wisdom and success. Your habits are the most powerful force in shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. They act as a compass, guiding you toward a specific destination. The question is, are your habits leading you toward the future you desire, or are they slowly pulling you away from it? Success is not the result of a single grand action. It is not luck, not a single breakthrough, and certainly not a matter of chance. Success is built over time through small, consistent actions. And just as success is built through discipline, hard work, and persistence, failure is built through something just as powerful, but far more dangerous: neglect. Neglect is not dramatic. It does not come with alarms or flashing lights. It is quiet. It is subtle. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Most people do not fail because of one catastrophic mistake. They fail because they allow small, seemingly insignificant neglects to pile up over time. Neglect is easy. It requires no effort, no decision, no commitment. It is the path of least resistance. And that is why it is the greatest enemy of success. Neglect begins with small things, things that seem harmless in the moment. You skip one workout. You miss one important task. You ignore one opportunity to improve yourself, and nothing happens. There is no immediate consequence, no instant punishment. And so you do it again. You tell yourself, I'll get to it tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week. Next week turns into next month. And before you know it, months or years have passed, and the life you once dreamed of seems far out of reach. Not because of a single moment of failure, but because of repeated moments of neglect. Neglect has a way of multiplying. It doesn't just stay in one area of life. It spreads like a virus. Neglect your health, and soon you will feel it in your energy levels, your mood, your confidence. Neglect your relationships, and over time they weaken and fall apart. Neglect your personal growth, and soon you find yourself falling behind, lacking the skills and knowledge to succeed. It is a slow decay, and by the time most people notice it, it is often too late. Consider the way a small crack in a dam forms. At first, it is barely noticeable. A small leak, a minor flaw. But over time, as water continues to push against it, the crack widens. What was once a tiny issue becomes a structural weakness. And then, one day, the entire dam collapses. This is how neglect works. The damage is not obvious at first. It is small, almost unnoticeable. But over time, the consequences become impossible to ignore. One of the biggest dangers of neglect is that it creates habits, bad habits. The more you neglect something, the easier it becomes to continue neglecting it. Miss one workout, and it feels wrong. Miss a second, and it's easier. By the third, it feels normal. The same is true with anything in life. Neglect your finances once, and you feel guilty. Do it again, and you justify it. Before long, you've developed a pattern of neglect, and it becomes second nature. People often assume that failure happens all at once, that one bad decision leads to disaster. But failure is usually a slow process. It is the result of tiny neglects, small decisions to ignore what needs to be done. It is skipping the small tasks, overlooking the little details, allowing things to slide just a little bit each day. Over time, these small moments add up, and by the time you realize it, success is out of reach. Neglect doesn't just apply to individuals, it applies to businesses, relationships, and even entire civilizations. Companies that fail don't collapse overnight. They decay slowly through neglected innovation, ignored customer feedback, and a lack of adaptation to change. Relationships don't fall apart in a single moment. They weaken over time due to unspoken words, missed opportunities to connect, and a lack of effort. Even great nations have fallen, not because of a single event, but because of years of neglect in leadership, economy, and values. Neglecting the small things leads to neglecting the big things. A person who neglects their morning routine soon neglects their productivity at work. Someone who neglects their financial discipline soon finds themselves drowning in debt. A person who neglects their personal growth eventually finds themselves stuck, watching others move forward while they remain in the same place. Success is not about perfection. It is about consistent effort. And when effort is replaced by neglect, the consequences are inevitable. Think about a garden. If you plant seeds but fail to water them, nothing grows. If you start watering but then stop, the plants wither and die. A garden does not demand dramatic effort, it simply requires consistent care. Life works the same way. Your dreams, your goals, your potential, they are seeds. If you water them daily, they grow into success. If you neglect them, they die. It is not the big actions that determine the outcome. It is the small, consistent ones. The truth is, neglect is always easier than discipline. It is always easier to skip the hard work, to delay action, to put things off for another day. But while neglect is easy in the moment, it is devastating in the long run. The pain of neglect is not felt immediately, but eventually it becomes unbearable. The weight of regret, the loss of opportunities, the realization that time has passed and cannot be regained. These are the heavy prices paid for neglect. Neglect does not come with immediate consequences, and that is what makes it so deceptive. It lulls people into a false sense of security, making them believe that missing one step will not make a difference. And while it may not seem like much at first, over time, those small neglects accumulate into failure. It is the slow erosion of potential, the gradual loss of discipline, the quiet decay of ambition. Every day, people stand at a crossroads. One path leads to discipline, effort, and progress. The other leads to neglect, delay, and decline. The choice may seem small in the moment, but over time, it shapes everything. Those who choose discipline build a future of success. Those who choose neglect build a future of regret. And the difference between the two is not determined by one big decision, but by the small choices made every single day. Life is a series of choices. Every single day, we are faced with decisions. Some small, some big, but all of them shaping the course of our future. The choices we make either push us toward growth or pull us toward stagnation. And at the heart of these choices lies a simple truth. Discipline is hard, but regret is far heavier. The pain of discipline lasts for a moment, but the weight of regret lasts a lifetime. Discipline is often seen as a burden. It requires effort, focus, and sacrifice. It demands that you wake up early when you'd rather sleep in, that you push through discomfort when you'd rather take it easy, that you stay committed when distractions and temptations are everywhere. But as difficult as discipline may seem, it is far lighter than the crushing weight of regret. Regret is a different kind of pain. It is the pain of knowing you had the opportunity but didn't take it. The pain of looking back and realizing that success was within reach, but you let it slip away because you chose comfort over effort, laziness over discipline, or excuses over action. Regret does not show up immediately. It is patient. It waits until years have passed, until the opportunities are gone, until the damage is done. Then, when it is too late to change the past, it settles in with its full weight, reminding you of the moments you could have done better, the habits you could have built, the dreams you could have achieved. Discipline, on the other hand, is the price we pay up front for a better future. It is the small discomforts, the daily sacrifices, the willingness to endure temporary pain for long-term gain. When you choose discipline, you choose to take control of your life. You choose to wake up early, to work when others are resting, to train when others are quitting, to stay focused when others are distracted. The weight of discipline is light compared to the burden of regret, because discipline is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Consider the athlete who trains every day. The early mornings, the strict diet, the grueling workouts. None of it is easy. The discipline required is immense. But what happens if they skip training? What happens if they take shortcuts, neglect their preparation, and rely on talent alone? Maybe in the short term it feels good to rest instead of train. But when the big game arrives and they find themselves outperformed by those who stayed disciplined, the weight of regret hits them with full force. At that moment, they would give anything to go back in time and make different choices. Think about the student who chooses to study every night instead of wasting time on distractions. They make small sacrifices, turning down invitations, staying up late, focusing on their work. In the moment, it's difficult. The discipline required feels heavy. But when the final exam comes, they walk in prepared, confident, ready. Contrast that with the student who procrastinated, who put off studying, who convinced themselves they could cram later. When the test arrives and they realize they are unprepared, regret washes over them like a tidal wave. The weight of that regret is unbearable because they now face the consequences of their choices. Discipline applies to every area of life. In health, it means making the tough choice to eat healthy and exercise, even when it's inconvenient. At the moment, choosing a workout over watching TV seems hard, but fast forward 5, 10, 20 years. The person who embraced discipline is strong, energetic, and full of life. The person who neglected discipline is facing health issues, struggling with fatigue, and wishing they had made better choices. The weight of discipline was a small effort each day. The weight of regret is years of declining health. In finances, discipline means saving money when it's tempting to spend. It means delaying gratification, living below your means, making smart investments. The weight of discipline might feel like saying no to unnecessary expenses, sticking to a budget, resisting impulsive purchases. But the reward is financial freedom, stability, and security. Compare this to the person who spends recklessly, who avoids budgeting, who ignores the importance of financial discipline. At first, the weight of discipline seems too heavy, so they avoid it. But years later, when they are drowning in debt, struggling to retire, and wishing they had made better financial decisions, the weight of regret becomes unbearable. In relationships, discipline means putting in the effort to nurture connections, communicate effectively, and be present for loved ones. It means making time for family, showing appreciation, practicing patience. It might feel like a small effort, a minor inconvenience at times, but neglecting those relationships leads to regret. The weight of discipline is simply the daily act of showing up. The weight of regret is the realization that you lost relationships because you failed to do so. Success is not determined by talent, luck, or intelligence alone. It is determined by habits, and habits are built through discipline. The weight of discipline is choosing to show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. It is pushing through discomfort, staying committed when motivation fades, and refusing to let excuses win. It is doing what needs to be done, regardless of how difficult or inconvenient it may seem. Regret, on the other hand, is built through neglect. It is skipping the workout, missing the opportunity, delaying the hard work, postponing the decision to change. It is the quiet acceptance of mediocrity, the slow surrender to bad habits, the gradual realization that time has passed and cannot be reclaimed. The choice is simple. Carry the light weight of discipline today, or bear the crushing weight of regret tomorrow. Everything you do, everything you believe, everything you become, it all starts with your philosophy. Your philosophy is the way you see the world, the set of principles that guide your thoughts, decisions, and actions. It is the foundation upon which you build your life. And from that foundation, habits emerge. Most people do not take the time to examine their philosophy. They live on autopilot, reacting to life rather than shaping it. They allow external circumstances, other people's opinions, and fleeting emotions to dictate their actions. But the truth is, every single habit you have, good or bad, comes from a deeper belief system. If your philosophy is weak, your habits will be weak. If your philosophy is strong, your habits will be strong. Your habits are not random. They are the direct result of how you think. A person who believes in discipline, growth, and responsibility will develop habits that reflect those values. They will wake up early, set goals, stay consistent, and push through challenges. On the other hand, a person who believes that life is unfair, that success is just luck, or that nothing they do really matters, will develop habits of procrastination, laziness, and avoidance. Consider the person who values health and longevity. Their philosophy is that taking care of the body is essential, that daily exercise and proper nutrition are non-negotiable. As a result, their habits align with that belief. They wake up and move their body. They choose food that fuels them rather than drains them. They stay active because they believe health is a priority. Contrast that with the person who sees health as something out of their control, something that just happens based on genetics or luck. Their habits will reflect that philosophy. They will neglect exercise, eat carelessly, and eventually face the consequences of those choices. Your financial habits also stem from your philosophy. A person who believes in financial responsibility, long-term thinking, and delayed gratification will develop habits of saving, investing, and spending wisely. They will make sacrifices today for security tomorrow. But a person who believes that money is meant to be spent as soon as it's earned, that budgeting is restrictive, or that wealth is only for the lucky, will develop entirely different habits. They will spend impulsively, ignore savings, and live paycheck to paycheck. The difference is not in intelligence or opportunity, it is in the philosophy that shapes their habits. The same applies to personal growth. Someone who believes that learning is a lifelong process, that knowledge leads to opportunity, and that growth requires effort, will develop habits of reading, studying, and constantly improving themselves. They will invest in learning because their philosophy tells them that knowledge is power. Meanwhile, a person who believes that school is the only time to learn, that intelligence is fixed, or that personal growth is unnecessary, will develop habits of stagnation. They will stop reading, stop learning, and stop growing simply because their philosophy does not demand it. Relationships are no different. A person who believes that strong relationships require effort, communication, and appreciation will develop habits that strengthen those connections. They will prioritize quality time, express gratitude, and make the effort to nurture bonds. But a person who believes that relationships maintain themselves, that people just drift apart, or that love should be effortless, will develop habits of neglect. They will fail to check in, fail to communicate, and one day wake up wondering why their relationships have deteriorated. Your work habits also stem from your philosophy. If you believe that excellence is the standard, that hard work leads to opportunities, and that persistence pays off, your habits will reflect that. You will put in the extra hours, take pride in your work, and strive to improve every day. But if your philosophy is that work is just a burden, that effort doesn't matter, or that success is out of your hands, your habits will mirror those beliefs. You will do the bare minimum, avoid challenges, and settle for mediocrity. Your philosophy dictates how you handle adversity. A person who believes that challenges are opportunities for growth will develop habits of resilience. When faced with difficulty, they will look for solutions, push through obstacles, and keep moving forward. But someone who believes that setbacks are signs to quit, that failure is permanent, or that life is unfair, will develop habits of giving up. They will avoid risks, fear failure, and retreat at the first sign of struggle. Even something as simple as time management is shaped by philosophy. A person who believes that time is their most valuable asset will develop habits of prioritization, efficiency, and productivity. They will eliminate distractions, plan their days, and focus on what truly matters. But a person who believes that time is abundant, that procrastination has no real consequences, or that they can always do it later, will develop habits of delay, waste, and inefficiency. Philosophy is not just a theory, it is the silent force that dictates your daily actions. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits are born from the way you think, the way you see the world, and the principles you choose to live by. If you want to change your habits, you must first change your philosophy.